The mirror of the silver river, the invitation. Adrift into obsidian, the journey begins not with stone, but with water. Before the first block of limestone was cut from the quarry, before the golden capstone was placed to catch the morning sun, there was only the rhythm of the river. Close your eyes and let the modern world dissolve. Let the electric lights of the cities fade, one by one, until the horizon is reclaimed by the velvet weight of the ancient dark. We are drifting now. We are moving silently onto the surface of the Nile, suspended in a time long before maps were drawn, long before the noise of the present day obscured the whispers of the heavens. Feel the cooling air on your skin. The heat of the day has retreated into the dunes, leaving behind a silence so profound, it feels like a heavy blanket wrapped around the world. Here, on the water, the silence is not empty. It is a presence. It is the breath of a sleeping god. Listen to the gentle lap of the current against the papyrus reeds. It is a soft, rhythmic hush, a lullaby that has been sung to this valley for 10,000 years. Hush, hush. In the ancient mind, the geography of the earth was never merely dirt and rock. The land was not a lonely island floating in a void. It was a shadow. It was a projection, a reflection of a greater, luminous geography that hung above, suspended in the obsidian sky. To stand on the bank of the Nile was to stand on the edge of a mirror. Look down into the black water. What do you see? You see the stars. And if you look up, you see the river, the exploration. As above, so below. It is said that the ancient Egyptians did not fear the night. They read it. They believed that the waterway we float upon, this life-giving vein of blue and green, was the terrestrial echo of the winding waterway above. We know it today as the Milky Way, but to the priests who stood on these banks in the quiet hours of the watch, it was the true Nile. It was the river of light where the gods sailed their barks of gold. It was the path of souls, a swirling, luminous current of milk and starlight arching across the dome of the world. We move deeper into the current now. The boat rocks gently, guided by the unseen hand of the stream. Consider the sacred principle that governed every temple, every tomb, and every crown. As above, so below. This was not merely a poetic phrase. It was a law of physics for the soul. The land of Egypt, the kingdom of the two lands, was designed to be a perfect, flawless mirror of the celestial realm. If the gods built a palace of stars in the northern sky, the pharaoh must build a palace of stone in the northern desert. If there was a river of light in the heavens, there must be a river of water on the earth. Why? Perhaps it was a way to anchor the fleeting nature of human life to something that never died. The river rises and falls. The crops grow and wither. Kings are born and they return to the dust. But the winding waterway above, it is eternal. It cycles, but it never fades. Imagine the mind of an architect standing here 4,000 years ago. He looks up at the chaotic beauty of the galaxy, that spill of diamond dust across the indigo void. He does not see random gas and fire. He sees a blueprint. He sees a map of home. The mystery here is one of orientation. Why did a civilization so obsessed with the heaviness of stone, granite, basalt, limestone choose to model their entire kingdom on something as shifting and swirling as starlight? Perhaps they knew something we have forgotten. Perhaps they understood that stone is only a vessel, and light is the contents. As we drift, the scent of the river rises to meet us. It is a rich, ancient smell, the perfume of blue lotus opening in the moonlight, mixed with the damp, fertile scent of river mud. It is the smell of creation itself. The Egyptians called the Milky Way the beaten path of stars. They believed that when a soul departed the body, it did not vanish into nothingness. It simply walked down to the shore of the sky and waded into the river of light. This is the duet. In our modern stories, we often speak of the underworld as a place beneath our feet, a dark cavern buried in the crust of the earth. But look up. For the ancients, the duet, the realm of the dead, the kingdom of Osiris, was there, woven into the stars. The afterlife was not down in the dark. It was up in the shimmer. To die was to become a star. To die was to take your place in the oarsman's bench on the solar barge, rowing the sun back toward the dawn. Feel the immensity of that belief. The sky above you is not empty space. It is a crowded, breathing city of spirits. It is a flowing current of ancestors. Every flicker of light is a name spoken in a hushed tone. Every constellation is a gate that must be passed. The silence of the desert at midnight deepens. The wind dies down. The water becomes glass. In this stillness, the distinction between the river below and the river above begins to blur. The horizon vanishes. Are we floating on water? Or are we floating in the sky? As above, so below. The reflection becomes the reality. The stone temples on the banks are merely anchors, holding the earth in place, so it does not drift away from the stars. The closure, suspended in the balance. We rest here for a moment, in the center of the current. There is a peace in this realization that the earth and the sky are not enemies, but twins. They are holding hands across the vastness of the night. The Nile flows from south to north, feeding the land. The Milky Way flows across the vault of heaven, feeding the spirit. And we are the voyagers suspended between them. We are drifting between two rivers, one of water, heavy with silt and life, one of light, heavy with memory and time. There is no need to paddle. The current knows where to go. It flows toward the horizon, toward the place where the two rivers meet, in the hall of the rising sun. Let the image of the silver river wash over you. Let the weight of the stone temples anchor you. Let the silence of the desert cover you. It is said that those who learn to read the reflection in the water could eventually see the face of the divine. But tonight, there is no need to see. There is only the feeling of being held by the water below, watched by the light above, drifting, reflecting, learning to the source. The map of the stars is written in the water, and the water flows into the sea of dreams. The silence of the three kings, the invitation. The shadow on the sand. We leave the riverbank now. We leave behind the gentle lull of the water and the rustle of the living reeds. We turn our faces toward the west, toward the horizon where the sun has long since vanished, entering the domain of the dry, the preserved, and the eternal. We approach the Giza Plateau, not as the world knows it today, crowded, loud, exposed by the harsh glare of the noon sun. We approach as spirits moving under the cover of a moonless night. The air here is different. It is thin, cool, and sharp. It carries the scent of ancient dust, of limestone that has baked in the sun for 4,000 years, and is now releasing that heat back into the cold vault of the sky. Ahead of us, the horizon is broken. Three colossal shapes rise from the bedrock. They are not merely buildings. They are artificial mountains. Jagged triangles of shadow cut out of the starfield stand at the foot of the Great Pyramid. In the darkness, you cannot see the top. It ascends into the gloom, a stairway of stone, climbing higher and higher until it seems to pierce the very fabric of the night. Feel the immense weight of this place. Millions of tons of stone, stacked with a precision that defies the mind, resting here in absolute stillness. It is a silence so heavy it presses against the chest. There is no machinery, no voices, only the wind whispering around the corners of the great stone faces. These are the three kings of the desert, Khufu, Khafre, Menkaure, sleeping in their geometric mountains. But they are not sleeping alone. They are waiting for the sky to turn, waiting for the moment when the earth below aligns with the fire above. The exploration, the hunter, and the architect lift your eyes from the heavy stone to the weightless dark above. There, dominating the southern sky, strides the giant, the hunter. To the Greeks, he was Orion, the warrior with his sword and shield. But to the ancients who stood on this plateau when the stones were white and new, he was Sa. He was the celestial manifestation of Osiris, the Lord of Silence, the king of the afterlife. He was the great soul who had conquered death, striding across the heavens in a boat of stars. Look closely at his belt. 3 bright, blue-white stars in a row, shining with a cold, piercing brilliance. Alnitak, Alalim, Mintaka. Whispers tell us of a secret written in the geography of this plateau. Look back down at the pyramids. 3 stone mountains in a row. 2 are massive, nearly identical in height and scale. The third, the smallest, is offset slightly to the left, breaking the perfect line. Now, look up again at the belt of the hunter. 2 stars are bright, perfectly aligned. The third, Mintaka, is slightly dimmer and offset slightly to the left, breaking the perfect line. It is said that this is no accident, it is a mirror, it is a map. The narrative of history often speaks of tombs and vanity. But here, in the quiet dark, we sense something deeper. We explore the poetic possibility that this entire plateau is a terrestrial hologram of the gods' home. The architects were not just building graves. They were pulling the sky down to the earth. They were freezing the stars in limestone. Imagine the mind that conceived this. Imagine the keepers of the hours. The astronomer priests standing on this very sand 4,500 years ago. They did not have telescopes of glass and steel. They had only the merhet, a simple rib of palm leaf with a plumb line and infinite patience. Visualize them standing in the dark, night after night, generation after generation, watching, measuring, waiting for the meridian transit, that sacred moment when a star crosses the highest point of the sky. They were obsessed with the zenith and the nadir. They sought to lock the shifting, chaotic world of men to the unmoving, perfect eternal stride of the giant in the sky. The wind shifts, blowing sand against the base of the monuments with a sound like dry rain. Think of the vocabulary of their devotion: axis, horizon, alignment, precession. They understood that the earth wobbles like a spinning top. They knew that the stars drift over thousands of years. And yet, they built these mountains to capture a specific moment in time, a frozen epoch where Osiris and his stone shadows were one. It creates a feeling of vertigo. Are we standing on the ground? Or are we standing on a reflection looking down into the deep, dark ocean of the sky? The Orion correlation is not a puzzle to be solved tonight. It is a feeling to be felt. It is the sensation that we are small, but we are connected to the vast machinery of the cosmos. The deepening, the silent conversation walk between the monuments now. The space between them is a valley of shadows. The sheer scale of time required to place these stones. It hums in the air, stone upon stone, silence upon silence. Why? Why drag 2 million blocks of stone across the desert to build a mimicry of 3 points of light? Perhaps it was a longing for connection, a fear that the earth was too lonely, too far from the divine. By building the stars on the ground, they were creating a landing pad for the soul. They were saying to the universe, "We see you, we know you, we are you." In the ancient texts, it is written, "The king is a star and vanishes into the sky." Here, the stone is the launchpad. The geometry is the engine. The silence is the fuel. The atmosphere is thick with the presence of the Neteru, the forces of nature. You can almost hear the chanting of the priests who sealed these chambers millennia ago, their voices low and rhythmic, weaving spells of protection around the sleep of the kings. They believed that as long as the stone stood in alignment with the star, the soul would never truly die. The connection would remain unbroken. A silver thread stretching from the tip of the pyramid to the heart of the star. As the night deepens, the stars seem to burn brighter. The pyramids of Giza lose their shape as buildings and become silhouettes of pure void, blacker than the night around them. They are heavy, immovable anchors. We reflect on the as above, so below, in its most physical form. The Nile is the Milky Way. The pyramids are Orion. The Sphinx, watching the east, waits for the constellation of the Lion. The entire land is a sacred script, written in a language of rock and light that we have almost forgotten how to read. The closure, the eternal watch. The wind settles, the sand stops moving, a profound stillness descends upon the plateau. The three kings, Alnatak, Alnilam, Mintaka, continue their slow march across the zenith. The three kings, Khufu, Khafre, Menkor, remain in their stone slumber below. It is a silent conversation that has lasted for 5,000 years. They are watching each other. The stone watches the light watches the stone. And we are merely passing shadows, witnessing the vigil. Perhaps the alignment is no longer perfect. The earth has shifted. The stars have drifted. But the memory of the connection remains. Feel the stability of the ground beneath you. Feel the vastness of the dome above you. We leave them now, in their sacred solitude. There is no need to disturb the silence. Some voices only echo when we are ready to listen. Some maps are only visible when we close our eyes. The stone sleeps, the star burns, and the silence holds them both. The vigil of the imperishable ones, the invitation, the turning of the world. Let us turn our faces away from the river now. Let us turn away from the path of the sun, and the path of the moon, and the path of the wandering planets that drift across the southern sky. Turn your gaze north. Here, the air feels different. Can you feel it? It is colder, sharper, like the breath of the high desert at the hour of the wolf. The sand here does not shift as easily. It feels anchored, heavy with the silence that is older than the temples we have left behind. We are entering the domain of the stillness. We are entering the court of the deep night. In the vast, moving machinery of the cosmos, there is a single point that does not move. Look up. High above the horizon, there is a circle of stars that refuses to bow to the earth. While other constellations rise in the east and die in the west, sinking into the underworld to be swallowed by the horizon, these stars remain. They are the sleepless watchers. They revolve in a slow, perfect circle around the pole, an eternal dance that never dips into the darkness of the earth. The Egyptians saw this. They stood on these sands 5,000 years ago, wrapped in linen against the chill, and they watched the sky turn. They saw that everything in the universe was subject to death and rebirth. The sun died every evening. The moon waned into shadow. The seasons withered and bloomed. But these stars, these northern lights, they were exempt. They called them the Akemu Sek, the imperishable ones, the ones who know no destruction. To look at them is to look at the only thing in the human experience that does not fade. Let the thought settle over you like a veil of cool silk. In a world of endings, you are looking at the endless, the exploration, the breath of the dragon. We walk now through the ruins of a temple whose name has been eroded by the wind. The roof is gone, allowing the starlight to flood the central chamber. The walls are lined with limestone, carved with the delicate, precise lines of hieroglyphs that glow faintly in the blue luminescence of the night. Trace the stone with your mind's eye. The carvings speak of a journey. They do not speak of a body wrapped in bandages. They speak of a bird taking flight. They speak of the king's soul, the Ba, ascending a ladder of light to join the circle of the imperishable ones. This was the deepest spiritual hunger of the pharaohs. It was not merely to live again. It was to become unshakable, to become a star that never sleeps, to achieve the ultimate victory over the horizon. Focus your eyes on the center of the northern sky. Today, we look for Polaris, but in the age of the pyramids, the earth tilted differently. The axis of the world pointed to a different guardian. It pointed to Thuban, a faint, subtle star in the constellation of the dragon Draco. Imagine the great serpent of stars coiling around the heart of the sky, protecting the stillness. Thuban was the pivot. It was the nail that held the canopy of the heavens in place. To the ancient mind, this was the throne of God. It was the one place in the universe that was absolute. We pause here, in the center of the ruined hall. Whispers tell us of a ceremony performed in the deepest secrecy, the opening of the mouth. Visualize the scene, not with fear, but with a sense of sacred transition. The statues of the king were touched with ritual tools made of meteoric iron that had fallen from the sky. The priests whispered the words that would allow the spirit to breathe, but they were not preparing the soul to breathe the dusty air of the earth. They were preparing it to breathe the ether, to breathe the cold, pure, diamond air of the north. There is a longing here that echoes in our own hearts. It is the human fear of the dark, the fear of closing our eyes and fading away. The Egyptians looked at the Akemu Sek and found a remedy for that fear. They believed that if they lived in Ma'at, in truth and balance, they would be welcomed into that circle. They would take their place in the choir of the north, holding hands with the spirits of the ancestors, turning slowly, majestically, around the center of all things, never once dipping their feet into the waters of death. The deepening, the mouth of the pyramid. This obsession with the north was written in stone. Think of the Great Pyramid again. We often speak of its size, but we forget its direction. Its entrance does not face the rising sun. It faces north. It faces the imperishable ones. The entire structure is a machine of orientation, a massive stone compass. Deep inside the pyramid, there is a narrow shaft, no wider than a human hand, drilled through millions of tons of masonry. It travels up, at a perfect angle, from the king's chamber, piercing the darkness, aiming like an arrow at the heart of the dragon. At Thuban. Why? Because the soul needs a door. The pyramid was not a tomb to keep people out. It was a launchpad to let the spirit out. The wind picks up, whistling through the empty doorframe of our temple. It sounds like a flute made of bone. The atmosphere here is heavy with the weight of eternity. We feel the contrast between the fleeting nature of our lives, our worries, our days, our breaths, and the unmoving stability of that star. The pharaohs believed that by aligning their stone bodies with the north, they could anchor themselves to the structure of the universe. They wanted to be the pin in the wheel, the center where the motion stops and the peace begins. I have not died, the ancient texts say. I have raised myself up. I am the imperishable star. It is a beautiful, haunting thought that we are not meant to vanish, that there is a part of us that belongs to the stillness, that when the noise of the world falls away, there is a direction we can turn where the light never falters. The closure, the watchfire, the night deepens. The air grows colder, but it is a clarifying cold. It clears the mind of fog. We stand in the shadow of the ancient gate, looking up one last time at the dragon and his jewel, Thuban. The star is fainter now than it was 5,000 years ago. The earth has wobbled on its axis. The North Star has changed. Even the heavens shift, given enough time. But the circle remains. The dance continues. There is a comfort in this vigil. As you lie here, drifting toward the edge of sleep, visualize that watchfire in the northern sky. It is a guardian light that holds the spinning world in place. It does not judge. It does not demand. It simply remains. Perhaps the imperishable ones were not just stars. Perhaps they were a promise that nothing is truly lost. The wind settles. The sand becomes still. The temple walls dissolve into the shadows. Only the light remains, fixed, eternal, watching over you as you drift into the silence. The wheel turns, but the center holds, and beneath the gaze of the undying, you are safe to close your eyes. The tear of Isis and the rising tide, the invitation, the thirst of the land, the season shifts. The light changes. We have walked through the desert, and we have stood beneath the unmoving stars of the north. But now, we must turn our attention to the earth beneath our feet, and the heat that rises from it. Imagine the land of Egypt at its most vulnerable moment. It is the season of Shimu, the low water. The sun has been relentless for months. The great river, the lifeline of the kingdom, has retreated into a narrow, sluggish channel, leaving behind banks of gray, cracked mud that crumble at the touch. The air shimmers with heat and dust. The wind holds its breath. There is a silence here, but it is not the silence of peace. It is the silence of thirst. It is the silence of a world waiting to exhale. Stand on the edge of the dry bank. Look out across the haze. The fields are brown and brittle. The grain silos are emptying. The people are watching the horizon with a quiet, desperate hope. In the ancient mind, this was not merely a weather pattern. It was a cosmic pause. The gods had withdrawn their favor, and the world was holding on, waiting for a sign of their return. They were waiting for a tear, a single, divine tear that would fall from the heavens and shatter the drought. The exploration, the star of the goddess. The sign does not come from the earth. It comes, as all things do in this story, from the sky. We move to the hour just before dawn. The wolf's tail, the false dawn, has faded, and the true light is beginning to bleed purple and gold into the eastern horizon. The sun is not yet up. The sky is a deep, bruised indigo, and there, piercing the twilight, it appears. Sopdet, the sharp one, the scorcher, the glowing one. We know it is Sirius, the dog star, the brightest diamond in the celestial canopy. But to the priests watching from the temple rooftops of Memphis and Heliopolis, this was not a dog. This was the soul of Isis. For 70 days, this star had been invisible, hidden behind the glare of the sun, wandering, it was said, through the trials of the underworld. But now, she returns. She rises heliacally, just moments before the sun, reclaiming her place in the dawn. Whispers tell us that this moment, the first flash of that blue-white spark against the morning sky, was the most sacred second of the year. It was Wepit Renpit, the opening of the year. It was the signal. The myth is one of heartbreaking beauty. It is said that Isis, the great mother, the mistress of magic, is mourning her lost husband, Osiris. She has searched the world for him, and having found him and lost him again to the shadows, her grief is too great to contain. As the star Sopdet rises, Isis weeps, her tear falls from the cheek of the sky. It travels through the ether, heavy with divine sorrow and divine love, and it strikes the source of the Nile deep in the invisible mountains of the south. And the river answers. The narrative here touches upon a mystery of synchronization that baffles the modern soul. How did they know? How did the rhythm of a star light years away match the rhythm of the rains in the Ethiopian highlands so perfectly? To the ancients, it was not coincidence. It was cause and effect. The star rose, the goddess wept, and the waters rose. Feel the anticipation of a civilization waiting for that connection. The dry earth begins to tremble. Far to the south, the water is swelling. It is gathering strength, turning from a quiet stream into a roaring god. This is the Hapi, the inundation. It is not a flood of destruction, but a flood of embrace. The water moves north, carrying the black silt, the kemet, the fertile gold of the riverbed. We visualize the water creeping over the dry, cracked banks. It hisses as it touches the hot earth. Hiss, hush. It fills the canals. It spills into the basins. It turns the dusty gray world into a shimmering mirror of the sky. The vocabulary of the land changes from parched and barren to quenched, fertile, alive. This is the promise of the rising tide. It is the assurance that no matter how dry the world becomes, the water will always return. The deepening, the wheel of the great year. Let us pause and consider the depth of time required to understand this cycle. The ancients did not just watch the year, they watched the eons. Because the Egyptian civil calendar was slightly out of sync with the solar year, lacking a leap year, the rising of Sirius would slowly drift. Every 4 years, the star would rise one day later. It would drift through the months, through the seasons, untethered from the flood. It would take 1,460 years for the star to return to its original place on the first day of the new year. 1,460 years. They called this the Sothic cycle. Think of the patience. Think of the keepers of the records who noted the position of the star, generation after generation, knowing they would never see the cycle complete. They were watching a clock whose single tick lasted longer than an empire. It is a story of faith in the long arc of time. They understood that the universe is a wheel. Even if the star drifts, even if the seasons seem broken, even if the water is late, it will circle back. Order Mott is inevitable. The star will return to the dawn. The water will return to the banks. The tear will always fall. The closure, the wash of silence, the flood has arrived now. The heat is broken. The air is cool and smells of wet earth and green growth. We stand at the foot of the temple of Isis on the island of Philae. The water has risen so high it is lapping gently against the bottom steps of the sanctuary. Listen to the sound. Lap, lap, lap. It is the heartbeat of Egypt. The dust of the past year is washed away. The mistakes, the sorrows, the dryness of the spirit, all of it is submerged beneath the healing, dark water. The goddess has wept, but her tears have brought life. Her grief has become our sustenance. The segment closes here, not with the grand fanfare, but with the rhythmic, soothing sound of the rising tide. We are suspended in that moment of renewal. The star Sopdet is shining high in the morning sky, watching over the work she has done. The land is drinking. Perhaps we too are waiting for a rising tide. Perhaps we too are waiting for a signal from the dawn. Rest in the knowledge that the cycle is turning. Even in the driest season, the star is on its way back. The water is rising in the distance. Some voices only echo when we are ready to listen, and some tears are necessary to bring the spring. Let the water hold you. Let the current drift. And let the silence return. The stone telescopes of the hidden chamber, the invitation, the belly of the mountain. The sky is gone, the wind is gone, the horizon, the river, the desert, they have all vanished. We have left the surface of the world behind. We have entered the mountain. To reach this place, we have walked through the ascending corridor, passing the grand gallery with its soaring corbelled walls, climbing higher and deeper into the solid darkness. We have bowed our heads to crawl through the low antechamber, humbling ourselves before the architecture of the dead. And now, we stand up. We are here, the king's chamber. This is the heart of the Great Pyramid. It is a room of red granite, brought from the quarries of Aswan, hundreds of miles to the south. The blocks are massive, smooth, and cold to the touch. The air here is still so still that it feels preserved, like a breath held for 4,500 years. Close your eyes and feel the weight. Above your head, millions of tons of limestone press down. The sheer mass of the structure is almost unimaginable. You are encased in stone. You are buried in a geometric womb of silence. It is a crushing, suffocating darkness, a place where the living were never meant to linger. And yet, this is not a prison. Look closer at the walls. Move your hand along the smooth, cold granite of the northern and southern faces. There, do you feel it? A small, square opening, no wider than a human hand. A mouth in the stone. It is dark now, but if you were to shine a light into it, the beam would not hit a back wall. It would travel up and out, through the very core of the masonry, cutting a straight line through the heavy dark, seeking the sky. These are not air vents. The dead do not breathe. These are the stone telescopes. These are the escape routes for the soul. The exploration, the engineering of the spirit whispers tell us that the architects of this place were not merely building a tomb. They were building a machine for resurrection. Consider the impossible precision of these shafts. They are only inches wide, yet they drive through the chaotic core of the pyramid for nearly 200 feet. They do not waver. They do not bend. They cut through the limestone blocks with a laser-like focus that baffles the modern mind. Why? Why go to such impossible lengths for a tunnel that no human body could ever pass through? The answer lies in the stars. We watched earlier, the southern shaft, rising from this granite room, is angled at exactly 45 degrees. In the epic of the pyramid builders, this angle pointed directly, like a sniper's rifle, at the belt of Orion, at Al-Nitak, at the heart of Osiris. The northern shaft is angled to lock onto the pole star, Thuban, the dragon, the imperishable one. This is the engineering of the spirit. The pharaohs believed that the soul, the Ba, was a volatile, bird-like thing. Upon death, it would be confused, trapped in the heavy darkness of the sarcophagus. It needed guidance. It needed a path. And so, they built a gun for the soul. Imagine the moment of silence after the funeral rites were finished. The priests have left. The torches are extinguished. The great stone portcullises have slammed shut, sealing the chamber forever. The king lies in his granite box. The darkness is absolute. But there, in the wall, is the open eye. The shaft. It is a connection, an umbilical cord of stone that links the deepest, heaviest place on earth to the highest, lightest place in the heavens. The narrative here is one of profound hope and profound fear. The fear of being lost in the dark. The hope that if the geometry is perfect, if the alignment is true, the soul will not stumble. We use words like tomb and grave, but those are words of the earth. Here, we must use the vocabulary of the stars: ascension, frequency, beam, alignment, zenith. Think of the silence of the shaft itself. A long, square throat of stone, empty of everything but dust and intent. For thousands of years, the wind has whistled across the outer opening on the face of the pyramid, singing a song down the tube that no one was there to hear. Or perhaps, something was listening. Perhaps the chamber itself was humming. Some believe the granite room was tuned to a specific acoustic resonance, that the chanting of the priests would cause the very walls to vibrate, creating a sonic carrier wave that would lift the spirit out of the body and launch it into the shaft. The star shafts were not for looking in. They were for shooting out. We wonder at the mind that conceived this, a mind that saw no difference between architecture and magic. To them, a line drawn in stone was a line drawn in reality. If the shaft pointed to Orion, then the room was Orion. The distance was collapsed. The stone was a bridge. The closure, the spark in the stone throat. The atmosphere in the chamber is heavy, but it is no longer crushing. It is expectant. Visualize the soul now, not as a ghost, but as a spark of pure, intelligent light. It rises from the sarcophagus. It hovers in the pitch-black silence of the granite room. It feels the weight of the mountain pressing in on all sides. But it sees the opening, the small, square tunnel leading up. It enters the shaft. It begins the journey up the long stone throat. It travels through the core of the pyramid, moving through the darkness, guided by the perfect, unwavering angle of the architects. It moves past the heavy limestone blocks. It moves past the weight of history. It is a single point of light traveling through a needle's eye, up, toward the face of the mountain, and finally, the opening. Imagine the moment of release. The spark bursts from the side of the pyramid, exiting the stone and entering the infinite velvet of the night sky. The sudden expansion, the freedom, the cool desert air, and there, directly ahead, locked in the crosshairs of the shaft, is the star Orion. Fuben, home. The body remains below, encased in the heavy red granite, sleeping in the belly of the mountain. But the connection has been made. The telescope has done its work. The viewer has become the view. The chapter leaves us here, in the quiet dark, contemplating that invisible line. We are left with the silence of the stone, and the hum of the stars. Perhaps the shafts are still waiting. Perhaps the machine is still turned on, waiting for a traveler who knows the way back to the sky. Rest in that silence. The stone holds the earth. The shaft holds the path. And the star holds the soul. The goddess who swallowed the sun, the invitation. The ceiling of lapis lazuli. We have charted the river. We have aligned the stones. We have watched the North Star hold its vigil. But now, we must step back. We must widen our gaze until we no longer see individual points of light, but the vast, breathing vessel that holds them all. Come with me into the silence of the Valley of the Kings. Walk down the sloping limestone ramp, deeper into the earth, into the cool, preserved air of the royal tomb. The walls here are covered in prayers, but tonight, we do not look at the walls. We look up. Shine your light into the darkness above. The ceiling is not stone. It is a canvas of the infinite. It is painted a deep, rich blue, the color of the ocean at midnight, the color of crushed lapis lazuli, the color of the Driamtine. And scattered across this deep indigo field are thousands of five-pointed stars, painted in brilliant, ochre gold. This is not merely a decoration. This is a portrait. To the ancient mind, the sky was not a vacuum. It was not a cold, empty void stretching out into nothingness. The sky was a body. The sky was a woman. Her name was Nut. Visualize her now as the ancients did. She is the great mother, the mistress of all. She is immense, larger than mountains, larger than oceans. Her feet rest on the eastern horizon, and her hands touch the western edge of the world. Her body arches over the earth in a perfect, protective curve, her spine forming the vault of the heavens. The atmosphere here softens. The sharp angles of the pyramids are gone. The cold geometry of the northern shafts is gone. Here, we are entering an embrace. The night sky is not falling. It is holding us. It is a canopy of skin and starfire, a celestial mother bending down to kiss the earth. The exploration, the great swallowing whispers tell us of a secret cycle, a story told in the hushed corridors of the temples at twilight. It is the story of where the light goes when the day is done. Watch the sun now. It is sinking toward the western horizon, turning the Nile into a ribbon of blood and gold. To the modern eye, the sun is setting. It is simply the rotation of the planet turning away from the star. But to the Egyptian soul, this was a moment of supreme intimacy. As the sun god Ra, weary from his journey across the day, approaches the western mountains, he meets the face of the goddess. The sunset is not an ending. It is a meal. It is said that at the moment of twilight, Nut opens her mouth. She does not destroy the sun. She swallows him. Pause and feel the strangeness, the sacredness of this image. The light is taken inside. The sun travels down the throat of the goddess, passing from the visible world into the invisible interior of her body. This is what the night is. The darkness you see when you close your eyes. This is not emptiness. It is the interior of the goddess. To be in the dark is to be inside the womb of the mother. We trace the path of the sun through the hours of the night. It travels along her spine. Look up at the Milky Way again. That river of white light splashing across the dark, That is her backbone. That is the shimmering spinal cord of the sky, pulsing with the energy of a billion souls. Ra travels safely through her, protected by her ribs, shielded by her skin from the chaos outside. This narrative changes everything about the night. It removes the fear. Why should we be afraid of the dark if the dark is simply a warm embrace? The Egyptians did not look up at the black sky and see a monster. They saw a guardian. They called her the one who bears the gods. The tone is soft, feminine, and enveloping. We use words like indigo, sapphire, cradle, pulse, breath, velvet. Imagine the sun moving through the 12 hours of the night, floating through the star-flecked fluids of her body, being washed, being renewed, being prepared. It is a gestation. Every night is a pregnancy. Every sleep is a time of growing. The astronomical ceilings of the tombs depict this with such tenderness. We see the red disk of the sun moving along the body of the woman, passing the stars that rest on her skin like jewels. We feel the lack of fear that defined their relationship with the cosmos. The universe was not indifferent to them. It was apparent. It was keeping them safe until the morning. The closure, the womb of the morning, and what of the dawn? We turn our eyes to the east. The sky begins to lighten. The indigo fades to violet, then to rose, then to gold. This is not just sunrise. This is childbirth. As the morning breaks, Nut gives birth to the sun once more. He emerges from her womb, washed in the blood of the dawn, fresh and new and strong. The cycle is complete. The mother has carried the light through the danger of the dark and delivered it safely back to the world. And she does this every single day, for millions of years, without fail, without complaint. The emotional closure here is one of profound safety. The narrative leaves us with the sensation of being small, but protected. As you lie here, listening to the silence of your own room, imagine that the ceiling above you is dissolved. Imagine the great, dark blue arch of the goddess bending over you. You are not exposed. You are not alone in a cold universe. You are like the sun. You have been swallowed by the night, taken into the safe, warm interior of the sky. The stars you see are the glittering ornaments on her dress. The wind you hear is her breath, slow and steady. The darkness is her shadow, covering you like a warm, star-speckled blanket. There is nothing to do now but drift. Drift along the spine of the Milky Way, float through the hours of the night, safe within the arc of the goddess. She is carrying you, just as she carries the sun, and just like the sun, you will be reborn when the light returns. But for now, rest in the blue, rest in the gold, rest in the belly of the sky. She has swallowed the light, and she is keeping it safe for you. The 12 gates of the underworld, the invitation, the descent into indigo. The sun has touched the western mountain. The great golden eye of the day has closed. On the surface of the world, the birds have gone quiet, the farmers have left the fields, and the dust of the market has settled. The visible world is surrendering to the invisible. But for the sun god Ra, and for the soul that travels with him, the journey is not ending. It is only changing its form. We stand now at the edge of the west. We stand before the Rosetta, the mouth of the passages. Before us lies not the open sky, but the earth. The horizon is not a line. It is a lip. And beyond that lip lies the deep, subterranean river that flows beneath the world of the living. We are about to descend into the Amduat, that which is in the afterlife, that which is hidden. Take a breath. Let the air of the upper world fill your lungs one last time. It is warm and smells of dry grass and sunlight. Now, release it. We step across the threshold. The air changes instantly. It becomes cool, still, and thick with the scent of ozone and ancient stone. We are no longer walking on sand. We are stepping onto the deck of a boat, the Mesoktet, the night bark. The river here is dark as obsidian. It does not reflect the stars, for there are no stars here, not yet. There's only the glow of the god himself, a soft, amber light radiating from the center of the barge, casting long, dancing shadows against the cavern walls that rise up on either side. We are drifting into the psychological landscape of the night. We are drifting into the country of dreams, the exploration, the geography of the soul. It is said that the night is divided into 12 hours, and each hour is a country unto itself. To pass from one hour to the next, the boat must pass through a gate. These are not gates of wood or iron. They are gates of will. They are gates of knowledge. Imagine them rising out of the subterranean mist, colossal, terrifying, beautiful. They are guarded by spirits whose names have been lost to the waking world. To the uninitiated, they are monsters. But to the soul that knows the way, they are merely guardians. They are the keepers of the password. This is the great secret of the Amduat. You must know the names. To speak the name of the darkness is to conquer it. We drift through the first hour. The water is calm. The shadows are long. We are shedding the weight of the day. The worries of the waking world, the harvest, the arguments, the noise are left behind at the first gate. They cannot enter here. This is a place of stripping down. The boat moves silently. The oars dip into the black water without a splash. Dip, rise, dip, rise. We approach the second and third gates. The cavern widens. Here, the walls are lined with stars. But these are not the stars of the sky. They are the star souls of the underworld, the spirits who have gone before. They stand in rows, silent and luminous, watching the procession. They are the signposts in this spiritual geography. We realize that the constellations we see in the sky above are merely the echoes of these deep, hidden truths below. To navigate the dark, one must navigate by the light of memory. The narrative moves deeper. The air grows heavier. We are approaching the darkest part of the journey. The fourth hour, the fifth hour. The river narrows. The path becomes the way of Rosedal, the land of Sokar, the silent one. Here, the water disappears, replaced by a desert of sand and fire. The boat transforms into a serpent, sliding over the dunes. This is the landscape of deep sleep, the place where the dreamer loses all sense of self. It is a realm of absolute silence, where the only sound is the hiss of sand against the hull. And then, the sixth hour, the midnight hour. We have reached the bottom of the ark. We are in the deepest pit of the earth. The darkness here is absolute. It is a velvet blindness. This is the hidden chamber of the night. It is here, in this profound depth, that the miracle occurs. The body of the sun god, old, weary, dead, meets the spirit of Osiris. Flesh meets soul. Yesterday meets tomorrow. It is a fusion, a moment of ignition. In the deepest silence, a spark is struck. The hidden hour is not a time of death, but a time of conception. It is the moment when the battery of the universe is recharged. We meditate on this. How often have we feared the midnight hour? How often have we feared the depth of our own sleep, the little death that claims us every night? But the Egyptians knew the truth. They knew that without this descent, without this surrender to the dark, there can be no morning. The light is not created in the sky. It is created in the cave. The boat begins to move again. The spark has caught. The engine of the cosmos turns over. Thrum, thrum, thrum. We move through the seventh hour, where the great serpent Apophis waits to swallow the light. But he is turned back, not by swords, but by magic, by words, by the power of the voice that knows the truth. The coils of the serpent are not a trap. They are a chrysalis. We pass through them, shedding the skin of the past. Eighth hour, ninth hour, 10th hour. The journey accelerates. The river widens again. The cavern walls begin to recede. Can you feel the change in the air? The heaviness is lifting. The pressure of the earth is easing. The star souls on the banks are cheering now, silent chorus of light urging the boat forward. They know that the danger is past. They know that the renewal is guaranteed. The closure, the bleeding of the dawn. We approach the final barrier, the 12th gate. It stands before us, tall and shimmering. It is the gate of elevation. The serpent that has guided us through the sand and stone now sheds its skin one last time. It uncoils. It releases the sun. As the boat passes through the great stone archway, the darkness of the cavern gives way to a pale, gray mist. We are rising. We are moving up from the depths. The black water of the underworld mixes with the blue water of the ocean of the sky. There is a feeling of immense relief here, a lightness in the chest. The long night is over. The trial is finished. The passwords have been spoken, and the doors have opened. Look ahead. Through the mist, a soft, red glow begins to bleed into the horizon. It is the blood of the dawn. It is the scarab beetle, Kepri, pushing the ball of the new sun over the edge of the world. The little death of sleep is ending. The resurrection is beginning. But for now, you linger in this moment of passage. You are safe. You have traversed the 12 hours. You have walked through the valley of the shadow and found the light on the other side. The boat drifts out of the mountain and into the open arms of the sky. The silence of the underworld fades, replaced by the first, tentative song of a morning bird. The cycle is complete. Rest now in the knowledge that the sun always returns. The gate is open. The light is yours. The circle of stone in the deep desert, the invitation. The silence before the sand. We must travel further now. We must leave the riverbanks of the Nile. We must leave behind the gold of the Pharaohs, the painted tombs, and the polished limestone of the pyramids. We must travel back, before the crowns were forged, before the first hieroglyph was carved, before the very concept of a king existed in the mind of man. We travel south, and we travel west, deep into the Nubian desert, to a place called Nabta Playa. Today, this place is a sea of silence. It is a flat, burning wasteland where the wind erodes the memory of the earth. There is nothing here but the horizon, a razor-sharp line dividing the yellow sand from the blue sky. But close your eyes. Let the landscape shift. Let the thousands of years melt away like mist in the morning sun. Can you feel the air change? The dry, choking heat of the desert vanishes. The air becomes humid. It smells of wet grass, of rain-soaked soil, of animal musk. The yellow sand turns green. We are standing in the green Sahara. It is a time long forgotten, when the desert was a savanna, a vast, breathing ocean of grass teeming with gazelles, with lions, and with the first wanderers of the human story. And here, in the middle of this prehistoric garden, stands a mystery, a circle of gold, but of rough, unhewn rock. Standing stones, lonely sentinels rising from the grass, arranged with a purpose that defies the chaos of the wild. This is the first clock of humanity. This is the root of the star cult. Before there was Egypt, there was this circle, the exploration. The architects of the wind, who were they? These ghosts of the deep desert. Whispers tell us they were the cattle people, nomads, wanderers who followed the water and the herds. They possessed no iron, no wheels, no written language. Their lives were dictated by the rhythm of the earth, the rising of the sun, the setting of the moon, and the coming of the rain. But in their simplicity, they possessed a profound wisdom. They looked up. Walk among the stones now. They are not the towering, smooth obelisks of Luxor. They are raw slabs of sandstone, dragged from the bedrock, shaped only by the wind and the hand of determination. They feel ancient to the touch, rough, warm, and heavy with intent. There are 30 stones in the circle. Inside, there are 6 more arranged in lines that seem random to the untrained eye. But there is no randomness here. Stand at the center of the circle. Look toward the east. Imagine it is the morning of the summer solstice, 6,000 years ago. The longest day of the year. The horizon begins to burn. The sky turns the color of blood and fire. And then, the sun breaks the edge of the world. And as it rises, its light travels in a perfect, straight line. It shoots between the gate stones of the circle, striking the center with absolute precision. The alignment is flawless. These wanderers, these people of the grass and the wind, had locked the sun into a cage of stone. Why? Because survival is a matter of timing. They were waiting for the monsoon. In the green Sahara, the summer sun brought the rains from the tropical belt. The rains filled the Playa, the dry basin, turning it into a lake where the cattle could drink, where the tribes could gather. If the rains failed, they died. If the rains came early, they flourished. The circle was not just a temple. It was a calendar. It was a desperate, beautiful attempt to predict the mood of the sky. The tone here is primal and earthy. We use words like monolith, shadow, monsoon, bedrock, root, origin. We feel the deep spiritual hunger of our ancestors. They looked at the scattering of stars at Orion, at the Big Dipper, and they felt small. The world was vast and dangerous. The night was full of predators. To build a circle was to create order. To place a stone was to say, I am here, I understand. This is the origin of the obsession. Before the Egyptian priests measured the hours in their stone chambers, these nomads measured the seasons on the open plains. Perhaps the knowledge traveled. Perhaps, when the desert began to dry, when the rain stopped falling and the green Sahara turned to dust, these people walked east. They walked toward the only water left, the Nile. And they carried the memory of the stones with them. They carried the belief that the stones could talk to the stars. The closure, the burying of the clock, the era of the green Sahara could not last. The earth wobbled on its axis. The climate shifted. The rains retreated south, and the sand began to march north. Visualize the slow abandonment of the circle. The grass withers. The lake dries into a cracked pan of clay. The gazelles leave. The lions leave. And finally, the people leave. They leave their calendar behind. They leave the heavy stones standing in the silence, watching a sky that no longer brings the rain. The wind picks up. It carries the grit of the new desert. Layer by layer, the sand rises. It covers the feet of the monoliths, then their waists, then their shoulders. For thousands of years, the circle is buried, hidden beneath the silence of the Nubian sands. Erased from the memory of history, only the stars remember. The stars continued to rise and set over the empty desert. The summer solstice sun continued to strike the spot where the stones lay sleeping under the dunes. The alignment held, even when there were no eyes to see it. Emotional closure comes with the realization of resilience. We are the descendants of those wanderers. When we look at a clock, when we check a calendar, when we look up at the night sky and wonder where we are repeating the ritual of Nabta Playa. We are trying to find our place in the flow of time. The chapter ends here, in the quiet vastness. The wind is burying the stones again in our mind's eye. The first clock has stopped ticking, but the time it measured goes on forever. Rest in that antiquity, in the knowledge that long before we built cities, we built circles. We have always been watchers of the sky and the stones. The stones are still there, deep in the desert, waiting for the rain that will never come again. The Zodiac carved in turquoise, the invitation, the temple of the Golden One. We move forward in time now. The raw, windswept circles of the deep desert are behind us. The geometric silence of the pyramids is behind us. We travel down the river of time to an era where the world is beginning to blend. It is the age of the Ptolemies, a time when the wisdom of Egypt married the mathematics of Greece and the star charts of Babylon. We stand before the gates of Dendera, the temple of Hathor, the Lady of the West, the Golden One, the mistress of the stars. Step out of the blinding white heat of the day and cross the threshold into the sanctuary. The air here is instantly cool. It smells of incense that has settled into the cracks of the walls for 2,000 years. It smells of old stone and silence. Your eyes take a moment to adjust to the gloom. Massive columns rise up around you, carved with the face of the goddess, a woman with the ears of a cow, gentle and maternal, watching you from the shadows. But we are not here for the columns. We are here for the ceiling. Climb the narrow, winding staircase to the upper chapel. It is a secret place, a chamber of high mysteries. Lift your oil lamp. Let the warm, orange flame push back the heavy curtain of the dark. Look up. There, carved into the sandstone, etched in relief, and once painted in vibrant hues of turquoise and gold, is a miracle. It is a spiral of figures, a swirl of gods and beasts. It is the Dendera Zodiac. It is a ceiling of time, frozen in stone. For a moment, the weight of the roof seems to vanish. You are not looking at rock. You are looking at a window that looks out not onto the sky of tonight, but onto the sky of an epoch long forgotten. The exploration, the great ear whispers tell us that this is one of the most complete maps of the ancient heavens ever found. But it is more than a map. It is a philosophy carved in relief. Trace the light of your lamp across the surface. The carving is crowded, chaotic, and beautiful. It is a collision of worlds. Here, we see the familiar shapes of the zodiac that we still know today: the ram of Aries, the bull of Taurus, the scales of Libra. These were the gifts of the Babylonians, the mathematical astronomers of the East. But look closer. Walking alongside the ram and the bull are the older, stranger gods of the Nile. There is the falcon, Horus, perched on a stalk of papyrus. There is the hippo, the red goddess Tauret, fierce and protective, holding the chain of the pole star. There is the jackal, riding on a plow. It is a celestial menagerie, a blending of myths. The narrative of this stone wheel focuses on a concept that is difficult for the human mind to grasp: the great year. The ancients knew that the earth was not steady. They knew that as it spun, it wobbled like a dying top. Very slowly, over the course of thousands of years, the North Pole draws a circle in the sky. This is the precession of the equinoxes. It takes 26,000 years for the Earth to complete one single wobble. 26,000 years. They called this the Great Year. One breath of the cosmos. Stand in the flickering light and try to feel the scale of that cycle. The sculptors who stood on scaffolding in this room, chiseling these figures into the sandstone, they knew they were capturing a fleeting moment. They were freezing the sky as it looked then, knowing that it would not look that way again for eons. The atmosphere in the chapel is scholarly, but it is also deeply magical. This is a library of stone. The papyrus scrolls of the Great Library of Alexandria have burned to ash. The spoken words of the priests have faded into the wind. The empires have fallen, but the stone remains. The stone remembers. We use the vocabulary of permanence to describe this masterpiece: relief, chisel, sandstone, orbit, sphere. But beneath the stone, there is a sense of motion. The spiral arrangement of the figures suggests a turning, a slow, inexorable turning of the great wheel of time. The lion walks, the crab scuttles, the twins hold hands. They are all marching to the beat of a drum that beats only once every 2 centuries. The mystery here lies in the awareness. How did they know? How did a civilization without computers, without telescopes, without satellites, measure a cycle that is longer than the history of civilization itself? Perhaps they simply watched. Perhaps they listened to the silence of the sky for so long that they began to hear its slow, rhythmic breathing. They understood that the universe is not static. It is a river, and we are merely drifting on a small boat, watching the landmarks on the shore change, slowly, imperceptibly, as we float downstream. The closure, the stone sky. The oil lamp is burning low now. The shadows in the corners of the room are growing longer, reaching out to touch the feet of the gods. We lower the light, but the image of the Zodiac remains burned into our minds. The turquoise paint has faded. The gold has flacked away. The temple itself was buried in sand for centuries, hidden from the world, sleeping in the dark until it was dug out again. But the map held true. There is a sense of dizziness that comes from standing under this ceiling. It is the dizziness of deep time. We realize how small our own lives are, less than a blink in the eye of the great year. We realize that the stars we see tonight are not in the same place they were when this stone was cut. The universe has moved on. The sky has shifted, and yet, there is a comfort in this vastness. To carve the sky in stone is an act of defiance. It is an act of hope. It is a way of saying, we were here. We saw the ram. We saw the lion. We saw the hippo. We marked the moment. The segment leaves us here, in the quiet, dusty air of the upper chapel. The silence of Dendera is heavy and protective. We are standing under a stone sky that has outlasted the empire that carved it. It has outlasted the religion that worshipped it. It has outlasted the language that described it. The wheel turns, the stars drift, but the stone remains. Let the image of the turquoise spiral fade gently into the dark. You are part of the great year. You are part of the slow, beautiful wobble of the world. And tonight, the lion and the bull and the falcon are watching over you, frozen in their eternal march across the ceiling of time. The feather and the star, the invitation, the hall of 2 truths. We have traveled far. We have stood in the shadow of the pyramids. We have drifted down the river of the underworld, and we have traced the great zodiac of the ages. But now, the journey turns inward. The vastness of the cosmos shrinks down to a single point. It shrinks down to the size of a human heart. Enter with me now into the most silent room in the universe. It is the Hall of Ma'at, the Hall of 2 Truths. The floor is made of polished black basalt, reflecting the darkness of the void. The pillars are tall and made of light. and in the center of the room stands a set of scales. They are simple, they are terrifyingly precise. On one side of the scale sits a ceramic jar. Inside this jar is the the human heart. It holds the weight of every word you have ever spoken, every deed you have ever done, every silence you have ever kept. On the other side of the scale, resting gently on the golden pan, is a single white ostrich feather. It is the feather of Maat. It is the symbol of cosmic truth, of order, of balance. It is the standard against which the soul is measured. In our modern world, we often think of judgment as a courtroom, a place of argument and defense. But here, in the ancient dark, there are no words. The heart does not speak. It simply is. The scale begins to move. The arm trembles. We hold our breath. The mystery here is delicate. Why a feather? Why is the heaviest thing in the universe the truth, represented by the lightest thing in nature? Perhaps it is because truth does not need to be heavy to be strong. Perhaps it is because the natural state of the universe is not force, but flow. If the heart is heavy, it sinks. It is burdened by chaos. But if the heart is light, if it is as weightless as the truth, it floats. The exploration, the geometry of the soul. But what does this feather have to do with the stars? Walk with me to the edge of the hall. Look out past the pillars into the velvet deep. There they are, the imperishable ones, the unwearying stars. To the Egyptians, the stars were not just balls of fire. They were the ultimate manifestation of Maat. Think of the night sky. It is perfect. It is predictable. It is orderly. Orion never decides to walk backwards. The North Star never decides to leave its post. Sirius never rises late because it is tired. The stars possess a divine discipline. They move in perfect harmony with the laws of creation, never deviating from their path, never clashing, never faltering. They are the definition of rightness. This is the secret connection between the scale and the sky. Living in Maat, living a good life, meant living like a star. It meant aligning your small, chaotic human life with the great, orderly rhythm of the cosmos. Did you keep your orbit? Did you shine your light? Did you maintain your balance in the gravity of the world? This segment is a meditation on ethical starlight. It explores the profound belief that the moral law within us is a mirror of the starry heavens above us. Physics and morality were not two different things to the pharaohs. They were the same thing. Gravity is a law. Truth is a law. To break a promise was to break an orbit. To cause chaos in your village was to introduce a wobble into the universe. We visualize the concept of the Ak. The Ak is the transfigured spirit. It is what happens to the human soul when it passes the test of the feather. It does not just go to a garden. It becomes a being of light. I have become a star, the pyramid texts whisper. I have taken my place in the belly of the sky. Feel the beauty of this ambition. The goal of life was not to conquer the earth. The goal of life was to become part of the machinery of the night. To become so pure, so balanced, so rhythmic, that you could slip seamlessly into the procession of the constellations without disturbing their flow. The vocabulary of the soul becomes the vocabulary of the galaxy. Equilibrium, pulse, resonance, crystalline, pure, axis. We meditate on the peace of this surrender. To pass the test of the feather is to surrender the heaviness of the ego. It is to let go of the I that wants, that takes, that fears. It is to become weightless. And only the weightless can rise. The closure, the ascension to order. The scale in the hall of two truth settles. The beam is straight. The heart and the feather are in perfect balance. They hang there, suspended in the golden silence of the moment. There is no judgment now, only recognition. The heart is light. Watch what happens next. The walls of the hall dissolve. The floor of black basalt dissolves. The heart begins to glow. It shifts from the red of muscle and blood to the blue-white of diamond and fire. It lifts from the scale. It begins to float. It rises through the roof of the world. It passes through the clouds, through the atmosphere, entering the deep, silent ocean of the Duat. It is no longer a heart. It is a star. It drifts upward until it finds its place in the great river of the Milky Way. It takes its station among the ancestors. It locks into its new orbit, joining the silent, orderly march that has been circling the pole since the beginning of time. There is a profound sense of closure here. The chaos of life is over. The confusion is gone. There is only the rhythm. Turn and shine. Turn and shine. You are part of the order now. You are safe in the clockwork of God. The feather was the key, but the star is the home. Let the image fade gently. Imagine your own heart beating in your chest. Thump, thump. It is the same rhythm that turns the galaxy. It is the same balance that holds the fire. Rest in that equilibrium. You are balanced. You are light. You are ready to rise. The sky is waiting for one more star. The stardust we became the invitation, the window in the night, and now, the journey brings us home. We have drifted down the Nile of the past. We have walked the colonnades of forgotten temples. We have descended into the caverns of the underworld and climbed the shafts of the stone mountains. But now, I invite you to return to the present moment. Feel the weight of the blanket over you. Feel the stillness of the room you are lying in. Feel the rhythm of your own breath, in and out. Imagine, for a moment, that the walls of your room are dissolving. Imagine that the ceiling is turning into mist, drifting away to reveal the sky above you. It is the same sky. The darkness that hangs over your roof tonight is the same indigo canopy that arched over the Giza Plateau 5,000 years ago. The light that travels through the window and touches your face is the same ancient light that touched the face of the Sphinx when it was new and painted in colors of the sunrise. We often think of history as a line of distance that separates us from the people of the past. We think of the pharaohs as distant figures, frozen in stone statues, separate from our modern lives of glass and steel. But look up. The distance is an illusion. The timeline is a circle. We are bridging the gap of 5 millennia with a single glance. When you look at Orion, you are looking into the same mirror that captivated the architects of the Great Pyramid. When you find the North Star, you are aligning yourself with the same pivot point that guided the souls of the kings. The civilization has crumbled. The names of the common people who dragged the stones have been eroded by the wind. The gold has been scattered. The temples are ruins. But the sky remains. It is the only thing we share with them that has not changed. It is the eternal witness, the exploration, the alchemy of carbon, but the connection goes deeper than sight. It goes deeper than history. It goes into the very marrow of your bones. Whispers of science and whispers of spirit tell us the same truth. We are not merely observers of the universe. We are the universe experiencing itself. Consider the atoms that make up your body as you lie here in the dark. The carbon in your cells, the iron in your blood, the calcium in your teeth, the oxygen filling your lungs. Where did they come from? They were not created on this earth. The earth cannot forge such things. They were forged in the nuclear furnaces of dying stars, billions of years ago, before the Nile flowed, before the sun rose over the desert. There were other stars, ancient, massive giants that burned with a furious brilliance. In their hearts, they crushed elements together, turning simple gas into heavy matter. And when they died, they exploded. They shattered themselves, scattering their dust across the cosmos. That dust drifted through the void for eons. It swirled, it gathered, it formed a solar system, it formed a planet, it formed the silt of the riverbank, and eventually formed you. The iron that courses through your veins right now, the iron that carries the breath of life to your brain, was once the burning heart of a star. You are not separate from the imperishable ones we watched in the northern sky. You are their children. You are their legacy. You are stardust that has learned how to breathe. This is the synthesis of our entire journey. We walked the hall of judgment, where the heart was weighed against a feather. We learned that the Egyptians sought to become light, to ascend and join the circle of the heavens. Perhaps they knew, intuitively, what we have only just learned with our telescopes. They knew they belonged up there. They built pyramids not to conquer the sky, but to return to it. They built stone ships because they knew they were sailors of the infinite. Reflect on the pharaohs' knowledge. We often search for secret technologies or magic spells in the hieroglyphs, but perhaps the greatest secret they possessed was simply a deep, undivided attention to the universe. They stopped. They looked up. they listen. They align their temples, their calendars, and their souls with the rhythm of the galaxy. They understood kinship. In our modern world, we have lost the dark. We have drowned out the stars with our cities. We have forgotten the names of the constellations. But the connection is not broken. It is only sleeping. It can be regained in moments like this, in the silence, in the dark, when we quiet the noise of the day, when we let the mind drift. We remember. We remember that we are small, yes, but we are also infinite. We are the star souls waiting to remember our names. The mystery of the goddess who swallowed the sun is no longer a myth of a giant woman in the sky. It is a metaphor for the embrace of the cosmos. We are all swallowed by the night. We are all held in the belly of the universe, protected, recycled, and reborn. The stone telescopes of the Great Pyramid were not just pointing at a star. They were pointing at the source. They were pointing home. The closure, the eternal now, the wind of the desert has settled. The water of the Nile is calm. The stone gates are closed. We dissolve the timeline. There is no ancient Egypt. There is no modern world. There is only the eternal now. There is only this breathing, shining cosmos, turning slowly in the silence. Feel the peace of that realization. You do not need to build a pyramid to reach the heavens. You do not need to carve a zodiac into stone to mark your place in time. You are already there. You are made of the same light that shines from the belt of Orion. You are balanced by the same gravity that holds the earth to the sun. You are woven into the tapestry of the night. As you drift toward the edge of sleep, let the boundaries of your body soften. Let the heavy, stone walls of your life crumble away into sand. You are light as a feather. You are rising, not leaving the earth, but realizing that the earth is just another star floating in the deep. The imperishable ones are watching over you. They do not sleep, so that you may. They are the watchfires of your ancestors, burning in the northern sky, keeping the vigil while you rest. You are safe. You are home. You are the dust, and you are the light. Sleep now. Drift into the current of the Milky Way. The stars are not far away. They are within you, and beneath the silence. You are shining.